Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I want to go over some of the additional changes made to the Power of the Doctor script, some cut potential cameos, as well as potential plot beats. Obviously last video we covered the altered regeneration scene, which would have seen the show basically fade with the regeneration shot happening. Now I've seen some confusion over that, and I want to just clarify what I meant when I said that that could have been the end of the show for a while. Because Chris Chibnall confirmed that he didn't know that Russell T Davies was taking over, and that he kind of wrote Power of the Doctor as a sort of final episode in case the show wasn't picked up again, and I think that's very much echoed in the actual story itself. You see, Sony Classic characters, cameos, and that sort of thing. That was basically Chris Chibnall's attempt at a final episode for the show in general, because he wasn't sure whether it was continuing or not, something he said in Doctor Who magazine. Hence why I said there's a very real possibility that the show could have ended there for a while. But of course it didn't, and I wanted to go over some of the other changes made to the Power of the Doctor script, because I genuinely find them really interesting. But before we get into it, if you could do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button, it would be very much appreciated. We are trying to get to 17,000 subscribers by the end of this month, and we've just passed 16,800, which thank you all so much for that. It means a lot. So any support would be greatly appreciated, as it really helps me and my channel out greatly. But with that said, let's get into the video. So one of the first major changes I've seen people speaking about from the first draft is the scene with the Fugitive Doctor. As you'll remember, she appears as a hologram like the 5th and 7th Doctors do in the story. And I wanted to go over this scene because it has some new moments. So just to avoid any confusion here, the Fugitive Doctor is referred to as Dr. F. Combination 931, Kumquat Magenta. She really does give these settings ridiculous names. Burst of 2 seconds, then link it into this. Yaz, as she works. This is weird, you were a tour guide from Leicester last time I saw you. Dr. F, good job Milado over there clocked me when he was trapped in the time storm. A nice trick to use a different interface to confuse this lot. Goes round to the Master. Ironic, really. You were the one who enabled the Doctor to find out about me. You created those Cyber Masters. And now together we're the ones to put you back in your place. Now, Yaz. So yeah, obviously this is an extended version of the scene where the Fugitive Doctor helps Yaz divert the regeneration energy of the Cyber Masters into that little regeneration MacGuffin that allows the Master to change into the Doctor and vice versa. So the interesting thing about this for me, majorly, is that they add in a scene in which they talk about a time storm and a guy noticing her in the time storm. So my assumption is this is a reference to Doctor Who Flux, when Fugitive is seen in the time storm, and obviously Vinder's there as well. That's my guess. I'm not really sure what else that could be a reference to. And then she goes around to the Master and says, ironic really, you were the one who enabled the Doctor to find out about me. You created those Cyber Masters. So we get a bit of basically reference to the actual Timeless Children, which is shockingly lacking for a penultimate episode of the era. And they basically say that, oh, as a result, the Master spelled his own demise. Obviously, this scene isn't massive, but I do think it adds some interesting stuff. And I wouldn't mind this scene have been longer, because frankly I think we need more Fugitive Doctor content, because Joe Martin has been sorely underutilised in my personal opinion. But I could take or leave this scene in all honesty. I also find it really funny that in this scene, Yaz has no context for who the Roof Doctor is or what the Timeless Child was. So if they did explain this scene further, then it would just leave Yaz all the more confused. Which, yeah, it's really weird to me that she doesn't know about the Timeless Child even after all of this time, when Ryan at least found out about it in Revolution of the Daleks. The next one is arguably the one that most of you will have heard of if you've been on Twitter the last few days. So this is from the companion support group scene during the ending of Power of the Doctor. So, a ripple of laughter, but I came back, and I can't tell anyone, because they'd have me put away, so this is Graham. Which made me think, I can't be the only one, and look, I'm not. We now see who he's talking to, sat in a circle. Ace, Tegan, Ian Chesterton, Joe Grant, Mel Bush, Kate Stewart, Dan Lewis. Ace has Graham on one side, Yaz on the other. Tegan just past Yaz. They are all wearing handwritten name stickers for each other's benefit. On a laptop screen we might see a few others joining in. Martha, or Ryan, or Jackie Tyler. And there's quite a few more people out there. So maybe this is where we share our stories about the Doctor. I will also say I may want to recruit some of you for work, says Kate Stewart. She smiles at Joe Grant, who smiles back, and then Dan says, I've only been home a month. So yeah, this is interesting because we get confirmation that the laptop that was sort of seen, or iPad that was seen in the scene that some people spotted, was originally intended to feature a few more people, I guess, Skyping in, mainly Martha or Ryan or Jackie Tyler. Now, many people have pointed out Jackie Tyler couldn't actually be there because she was in a parallel universe. Although, to be fair, Mel Bush was also in space with Sablon Glitz, so how she's back, I'm not 100% sure. In my own personal headcanon, I think that it would be Ryan. I think Ryan would make the most sense in this context, given that he was the one who had his YouTube channel and used technology and stuff, and obviously Martha Jones. Personally, for me, I'd rather wait until Martha got a proper, full-fledged return rather than appearing on an iPad screen. I think that would be a bit underwhelming. But yeah, it's cool to see that other companions were at the very least thought of during this scene. And honestly wouldn't mind if the idea of a companion support group of sorts was returned to in a more fully fledged capacity, sort of like a sequel to the Subwave network way back in the 2000s with Russell Zero. Now this is the one scene where I honestly don't really know why it was cut, in my opinion. So this is during the final scene where the Doctor and Yaz have their ice creams on the top of the TARDIS, and Yaz says, "You are going to live, aren't you?" The Doctor says, "Yeah, I think so, but I won't be the same." Beat. Yaz can't. I don't want it to end. I don't know why this was cut, because in the final draft, Yaz doesn't really have a reason to leave. The Doctor just kind of goes, "Oh, I need to do this next bit alone now," and so she does. Whereas, if this scene had been included, it would make sense for Yaz, as she'd be losing the person that she knew. And having just seen the Doctor turn into someone that is quite evil, the idea of her being unsure about staying with the Doctor as she changes makes way more sense than her just being dropped off at random. So I really don't know why this scene was cut. It's only 3 lines. I feel like they should have kept it in my opinion. They should have been kept in. I think it would have made Yaz's exit make so much more sense. But yeah. And then we have the most bizarre addition of the bunch. It's been confirmed through this script that Chris Chibnall originally made it so that the Master is in fact Rasputin, not someone cosplaying as Rasputin, but actually the historical figure of Rasputin. So we have this scene between the Master and Yaz when he's the Master Doctor, which that's his official name in the script, which is quite funny to me. "It's not enough, B. I was in Russia for 8 years, Yaz. That cyber planet, the first experiment, took out hundreds of miles of forest in Tunguska. I sent myself to Siberia as punishment. 8 years of thinking, 8 years of being a monk. I loved it. I know you're worried about what I'm going to do. It's simple. The Earth will become a foundry for Daleks and cyber production, hence the work in the volcano, while I tarnish the name of the Doctor. I'm going to make the Doctor a byword for fear, pain, and destruction, so when people hear that name in the future, they will quake in fear. Yaz Khan, if you think I'm going to let you trash the Doctor like that," and then the scene ends. And then there's a second part where we actually see the Master's body get thrown into a river, which is actually a reference to the original demise of Rasputin. He was thrown into a river to basically stop the supposed control Rasputin had over the Tsar of Russia at the time, Tsar Nicholas. So it says, "The Master crawling along, looks up ahead. Prince Yusupov stands in his way. Rasputin, I've been waiting for you. Finally emerged from your locked room Dilvery. The Master, oh please. Yes, beg for mercy, because I've seen you in this court. Your malign influence, your unnatural control over the minds of others. But your mesmerism will not work on me. Not now, you Yusupov. Yes, now," which is a very weird line. And he brings out a pistol and fires 5 times. We only see him fire, not the shots hitting. Behind him emerge 2 hired thugs. They carry a sack, come to stand by Yusupov. Prince Yusupov continued, "Put his body in the river." I'm not really sure where this is meant to come in the story, because obviously we see in the end of Doctor that he's kind of struggling to move during the final scene where he kills off the Doctor, and in this scene the Master is crawling, so I'm going to assume maybe this is an additional trip he took back to St. Petersburg after defeating the Doctor, and this is how he actually dies. But yeah, it's just weird that despite in the final draft, the Doctor says that the Master is pretending to be Rasputin, in this version of events, the Master literally is a Rasputin. Which, I don't really mind, but I definitely think the whole idea of the weird, 8-year monk expedition and the mining stuff definitely made sense to cut. And this scene as well doesn't really add much. The Master pretty much dies in the final confrontation with the Doctor anyway, so personally I don't think this adds much. It's just kind of bizarre to me that in the original draft the Master would have actually been Rasputin. There are a couple of alterations in this first script as well. Apparently there's more scenes to establish Yaz being able to fly the TARDIS. Personally, I don't mind that too much, given that in both Revolution and Flux, we see her learning to pilot the TARDIS. In Revolution, we see her mapping out post-it notes across the stolen Gallifrey TARDIS, and then in Flux, we see her co-piloting it with the Doctor. So I kind of buy that she'd be able to do this by now, so that doesn't really bother me too much. You know, Clara managed to do it after a while, so did various other companions, even Donna managed to fly it for a brief time, so personally to me, I don't mind it too much. There's also, ironically enough, a line from the Master talking about how he wishes that the regeneration changed the clothes as well, which is funny when you consider the scene added in by Russell has the change of clothes happen via the regeneration somehow, which we haven't seen clarified yet, but I'm sure it will be in the 60th. I just find it funny. And I guess it just shows as well that Chibnall wrote this before that scene was added on. And obviously there's probably a bunch of other tiny alterations that I missed, but those are the major ones that I felt were interesting to point out. I've also seen some people advocating for a quote-unquote Chibnall cut of the episode that would contain all these scenes, but personally, having briefly skimmed through some of the big bits of this episode that were changed from the first draft, I don't really feel like this would add much, and yeah, I don't really see the point in a Chibnall cut of the episode, beyond maybe a couple of scenes making a bit more sense, but you know, let me know, would you be interested in a Chibnall cut of the episode? It's like the Snyder cut all over again. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this original version of Power of the Doctor. Do you think that some of these scenes would have added to the episode? Are you glad that we got the episode we got? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments below. Please like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.